Well, thank you very much. I am honored to be able to speak here today, and I wanted to give a thanks to Rich, Cicely, and Kay, and the rest of the team at the University of Iowa. I wanted to thank Shelley and all the hearing health professionals for your tireless work, and I wanted to make a special thanks to the patients for all their courage and inspiration. This presentation is based upon an upcoming article in the Hearing Journal. I wanted to also say thank you to my editors, Madeline and Taylor. A pre-publication draft of the article, I think there's some copies available there at the conference, and one can also find it on my website at www.johndrinkwaterlaw.com. I got severe hyperacusis and tinnitus over a decade ago when someone spoke loudly in my ear. I'm going to be preaching to the choir on a number of things today, so I'm going to zip through some of the familiar issues, hopefully not too fast for the closed captioning, and I'm going to focus on some new developments. And then we'll try to leave a little time for questions at the end. Well, I think we all know that safe sound is a complex issue and loud sounds are unhealthy. But public opinions vary. Some people are willing to take the risk, and one person's noise is another person's nirvana. Democracy is founded on balancing rights, and so nobody always wins and nobody always loses. There are a myriad of laws and regulations regarding noise, and also the ADA mandates accessibility options for the disabled. But we're continually faced with ignorance and bias. Nevertheless, it's good for business to include disabled customers, and the science, public policy, law, and business economics all lead us to providing inclusive options that allow the abled and disabled to be together at the same place and at the same time. That's the gold standard, but it's not always possible, so we need to look at some mitigation options. Theme parks, concerts, sporting events, restaurants, and retail establishments all have different challenges. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, and the ADA requires flexible, reasonable accommodations. Many of them are little to no cost. One of the things that I'm very excited about is the convergence of hearing health technology on everybody's smartphone. The theaters and concert halls, they have ADA-mandated assistive listening systems. They often use FM or loops or infrared. They have to provide headphones to patrons, or you can buy your own headphones, which are quite expensive. But that's in addition to the amplified sound, and the amplified sound can affect the hyperacutes. And also you don't have closed captioning. Silent disco uses a similar FM technology where everybody has headphones setting their own level with no speakers. It started over a decade ago in Paris when they wanted to have an outdoor art event at night on the street, and in Paris they enforced the noise code. It quickly spread to fraternities and sororities in the United States that are often in residential neighborhoods. And it's also expanded to outdoor events like Coachella, where they start concerts at 1 a.m. and it doesn't bother the neighbors. What's really exciting is the newer technology that uses Wi-Fi and Bluetooth that connects with your smartphone. So right now, for less than $2,000, you can stream audio over your existing Wi-Fi network directly to the patron's smartphones, where they can use their own earbuds and their own headphones. It can work in addition to your existing HAT system, and you also can have real-time closed captioning. Furthermore, the FCC has a proposed rulemaking that they put out just at the end of last year that all mobile phones will be hearing aid compatible. So this technology is not just like concerts for the barn bands or meetings like this. But what about participating in government? We can't hold rallies in front of Congress with bullhorns. Hyperacusis and tinnitus is the epitome of an underserved and marginalized group. So I hope government will take advantage of these opportunities to let us participate. There are also many architectural and interior design options. You can modify an existing place by adding carpets, cushions, curtains, tapestries, and acoustic tiles. Starbucks recently announced that all of their new stores and 1,000 of their existing stores are going to start using acoustic tiles to reduce the background noise and reverberation. It's designed not only to let the hearing disabled communicate better, but it also will allow your barista to get your order correct. Another option is using natural geographic features to isolate sound. At the San Luis Obispo Jazz Festival, there's a natural hillside that goes up and to the left away from the stage. They had set that up as a VIP area for the patrons that wanted to have a quiet experience. I reached out to the festival organizers, and they immediately made the same area available to the disabled with no extra charge. When they did their press release, they picked up an audiology clinic as a sponsor. This is the kind of thing that I'll always try to do. You have a win-win-win situation. Increased access, everybody together at the same place and same time. Good publicity and good for business. Another option is quiet times. You may recall last year, Rich made a little presentation that Walmart was doing a test in its stores on Saturday morning from 8 to 10 when they had no music and reduced lighting for its sensory disabled customers. We and a lot of other people reached out to Walmart, and last November they made this every store nationwide every day from 8 to 10. This is a wonderful balanced solution. There's no anxiety before you arrive at a store. There's no shame or embarrassment in having to explain your condition to somebody who may not be aware of it or is untrained. And it takes the biased person out of the equation also. It's been great for promotion for Walmart, and everybody is trying to get this to expand to other areas. Another option is quiet areas. Sporting events have a long history of using noise to rattle the other team, but it's kind of gotten out of control. The Seattle Seahawks and the Chiefs, they seem to be in a battle to see who can have the loudest stadium. The current record is 140 decibels. I think it goes to the Chiefs. How can you balance that with the safety of other patrons, children, and babies? Well, the Eagles in 2019, they set up a separate quiet room within the stadium, primarily designed for their autistic patrons, but it should be available to anybody who wants to use it. And there's no reason why this could be expanded to every stadium. They can take the luxury booths and make them available to the disabled, just like they did at the Slow Jazz Festival. In Brussels, they regulate the nightclubs now. They have to have real-time dB levels displayed. They have to have a separate rest area within the nightclub. There has to be an on-site person for compliance, and there has to be warning signs. And speaking of warning signs, that's one of the things that raised awareness about secondhand smoke. In Los Angeles, for over a decade, in the noise code was provided that a place of public entertainment that has amplified sounds that at any time is over 90 decibels, they have to post a warning sign outside that it's dangerous for their health. Unfortunately, I've never seen that enforced. And I want to spend a little time on earplugs and earmuffs. Oh, look at that cute doggy. That's my little honey. So we all know that earmuffs and earplugs are important protection for us, but they're not suitable for communication. When you have them on, your voice is louder in your head, so you tend to speak softer, and you can't really hear the person that you're communicating with. Unfortunately, they've been unregulated after the federal government shut down the Office of Noise Control over 40 years ago. NIOSH in 1998 issued a report that, quote, hearing protectors are subject to many problems and should be considered the last resort against hazardous noise. The industry has created a noise rating reduction system, NNR, that NIOSH concluded after testing 60 different types of ear protection, that it, quote, consistently overstated real-world protection by 140 to 2,000%, and they are, quote, of little value in estimating protection under actual use. In addition, these NIOSH guidelines were based on almost 50-year-old data from 1972, when environmental noise at concerts, movie theaters, restaurants, and sporting events were far less in volume and time of exposure. Accordingly, for today's noisy world, the prior assumptions on what's a safe level, according to NIOSH, quote, may not be valid because the general health and societal noise exposures of each generation is going up. Finally, you may be aware of the 3M Combat Arms earplugs. They were dual-sided. One side was less protection, so you could hear your commander, and the other side was more protection when you were in combat. Unfortunately, they didn't work. 3M recently agreed to pay $6 billion to settle some 300,000 claims. So in conclusion, these earplugs and earmuffs are very important to us. but we need to educate the public about the limitations and risks. So sound is regulated and should be enforced. So when our everyday advocacy is ineffective, what can we turn to? Well, the federal, state, and local governments, they all have regulations. Usually they involve maximum levels and restricted time periods. For enforcement, we need to have proper drafting, accurate records, independent oversight, accountability, and due process for people who may be injured. These same numerous federal, state, and local agencies are charged with enforcement, but they're often underfunded. It's relegated to low priority. Some of them have no one assigned to enforce it, and there's no training and there's no equipment. Recently, the EEOC and the DOJ have taken some great strides in raising awareness about protecting the deaf. And I'm hoping that they can expand that to protect people with hyperacusis and tinnitus. So unfortunately, corrective action seems a little bit elusive and is hard to get accountability. That leaves it up to citizens. Citizens can bring litigation. The plaintiffs can be individuals, groups, or class actions. And there are several legal theories. Public and private nuisance that interferes with the enjoyment of your property. Compliance with the EPA noise regulations. Civil rights discrimination under the ADA. And the local noise ordinance and other laws. One interesting tool is inverse condemnation, which is the opposite of eminent domain. Eminent domain is used when a government entity wants to build a new airport next to your property, and they're supposed to pay you for the diminution in the value. If they don't, then you can bring a claim for inverse condemnation. What makes it so powerful is it's based in the federal Constitution, and state and local laws cannot override it. Finally, not many people are aware that trespass can occur with noise. If the sound is so loud that it shakes the ground or shakes your house, you have a claim of trespass. And there are a variety of remedies. They can order injunctive relief to make people obey the law. They can have compliance monitoring, require training and education, and of course there's damages. However, as many of us know, litigation can be complex, technical, and very expensive. Also, many of these laws don't have material fines, and damages are hard to prove. How much were you injured if you stepped in a store with 90 decibels and turned around and left? And if the fines are non-existent or low, companies will do a simple cost-benefit analysis and decide to keep violating the law. There are other issues with public meetings that have environmental impact reports. They play a lot of games. Many of them require that you have to be present at the meeting and object at that time, or you lose your rights. But they don't tell you when the meeting is. Or they'll tell you when the meeting is, but they don't tell you where it is. Or they won't put on the agenda that they're discussing an environmental impact report. And then there's other issues. I was out at the Paso Robles Airport, a small airport in Central California, meeting with the manager. And I noticed on the wall behind him there was a topographic map that had a number of circles that came out from around the center of the tarmac. But they had dB levels on them. 60 dBA, 55, 45 as you move further out. I said to him, this is a very quiet area. How can the 24-hour levels of dBA be 65 when it's normally 45? He smiled and said, let me tell you what I did. He took the engineers out in the tarmac. They made one reading on a handheld device when a plane was landing. Then they came in his office. He pulled out the map. He drew on the map where he thought the circle should be, and he wrote down what he thought the dB level should be. The engineers signed this. They took it to the city council, and it got adopted as part of a 25-year plan. So 20 years from now, they could triple the size of the airport. And he can point to this and say, you know what? The sound is still not as loud as it was 30 years ago. So it's a really difficult time for everybody out there. But we can always expand access through education and advocacy, and I assure you it will get better. I want to thank you very much for the time to make this presentation.